Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
If you're hungry, make sure you go to Delia's for lunch today or for dinner tonight. Delia's, the authentic Mexican restaurant in South Saudi Daisy. Maria Hernandez has the best loaded nachos and crazy chicken, homemade tamales, enchiladas with beef, chicken, and pork, and iced tea. Now, your iced tea is free if you remember my name, David Tulis, and pass that along and say, hey, I heard about Delia's on the radio. That tea will come to your table with clinking ice cubes and no bill attached. Again, that's Delia's, the authentic Mexican restaurant. The number is 521-7145. That's 521-7145. On the taco platter, I believe it's the taco salad is the special today. It's $1 off, $6.25, and you will enjoy your fare there. Authentic Mexican restaurant at Delia's. And also, by the way, if you have a broken cell phone, make sure you contact Adam at Cell Surgeon. He is the doctor of the phone, and he can get most of your repairs done in half an hour, and you can even wait for them if he's not swamped at that Cell Surgeon at Northgate by the Old Chicago Pizza. The number is 668-0100, 668-0100. Cell Surgeon, your quick repair place in Chattanooga. Dick Cook is a reporter of a long note here in Chattanooga. He used to be a sports writer. He was a reporter on the news side at the Chattanooga Times-Free Press, and working in the same office as I was there as an editor on the copy desk. And Dick left the paper some time ago, and is taking up the pen again in a new way, and that is through EastRidgeNews.com. It's a news website covering East Ridge, a very complicated little town that is known in the old newsroom as a place full of intrigue and odd characters and scandal occasionally, almost as bad as Cleveland, Tennessee, in Bradley County. Now, Dick Cook, I have a question for you, and that is, who is David Geisen? David Geisen, the man we've heard about, he's an entrepreneur. He owns Superior Creek Lodge in your town, in the town which is the focus of your news website, EastRidgeNews.com. Who is he, and why should our listener care about him, and what are some things that we haven't perhaps heard?
Well, first of all, it's EastRidgeNewsOnline.com. Let's get that straight. Yeah, it's the website's a couple years old. I exclusively cover East Ridge. I'm very parochial in that way. David Geisen, he's an interesting man. I've become acquainted with David over the last couple of years. He and his family own several extended stay lodges in Georgia and one in East Ridge. And the one in East Ridge, Superior Creek Lodge, is the largest that David and his family owns. They purchased that lodge in 2007. Geisen is, I think there's 266 units in Superior Creek Lodge. That's more than double of the other lodges that he owns. And he's told me that he owns three in the Kennesaw area, I believe. But he's tried to be a good corporate citizen in my eyes. Right after they bought the lodge, there was a flood in East Ridge. The entire first floor of his extended stay motel was flooded. I believe he pulled out all the stops and used his resources, and they were up and running in, I think, 6 weeks, David. The idea of extended stay motels is interesting in East Ridge. If I could take a moment and reflect on Exit 1 back in the 70s when I was a boy, it was the second largest concentration of motel rooms around an interstate exchange in the country. Now, this is potentially a bonanza for a town like East Ridge. But during those days, there was no liquor by the drink. So the big players would think twice before they set up shop there. But because, you know, people coming from the north or people who like to imbibe, they want to stop at a place and stay overnight where they can get a cold, you know, a liquor drink. So it started to fall into disrepair. The big chains began moving out. Smaller interests moved in, bought these facilities, and the only way they could survive economically was to offer rooms by the week or by the month. So we got into a whole concept that we have to offer extended stay motels. So David's is the largest in East Ridge. It's the most maligned. There are 4 or 5, perhaps even more than that. The city tried to deal with it some years ago. It was like shutting the gate after the horses got out of the corral. It was too little too late. Some motels were grandfathered in. We still have, we've got a problem there. And
what is the problem?
Well, the problem is we've got low-income people, I won't say flocking, but congregating to places that they can afford to live. East Ridge has become that spot. Superior Creek Lodge is the biggest one. So David's become a target of people critical of offering extended stays. There's some accusations that it's nothing more than a place where druggies go to flop, and you know, unfortunate people end up there and they're trapped and they can't get out. This is kind of the perception that Superior Creek Lodge has had. So that's who David Geisen is. I know him personally. I think he is a man of character. I do not consider David a slumlord. Over the years, East Ridge has asked him to improve his property in numerous ways, consistently asked, and he's complied. And this recent condemnation on September 9th came out of the blue.
The condemnation is based on what conditions, Dick Cook?
Well, it's based on life safety issues. That's the term that I'm told by the city's fire marshal and the city's acting city manager. They believe that the structure is so dilapidated that it could possibly collapse under its own weight. And to protect the tenants there, or the people staying in those rooms, they felt it was urgent. They had to get them out and get them out immediately without, well, I think with maybe an hour's notice, perhaps. I do know that Geisen met with city officials prior to September 9th. He met with them on the morning of September 9th. And officials at that time did not tell him that they were going to be closing down Superior Creek Lodge later that day. So this was a complete surprise to him.
Almost as if, let me just interrupt here, Dick Cook. It's almost as if that occasion would have been one for a good faith proposal. We are thinking of doing this. We would like to have some feedback from you, because that is how you, as an owner, a property owning, tax-paying resident of our city, can have your rights secure. I mean, after all, David Geisen does have constitutional rights. He has rights under statute. He has rights as a homeowner, a property owner, and the due process rules require you to get some kind of notice. So that meeting, you're saying, occurred the morning of the first of the two. There were 2 waves. In the first morning, he was not told about this. And are you suggesting, Dick Cook, that there may have been a meeting on some days prior to the September 9th shutdown?
I have no idea about that.
Okay, but that morning there was a meeting.
There was a meeting on the morning of September 9th, and Geisen was given no indication that a condemnation was imminent. What puzzled me about that is that in the past, when the city has said there's a problem with your property, you need to address issues, you need to fix it, he fixed it. Geisen has told me since 2007, when they bought that property, that he and his family have invested somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 to $700,000 in improvements that were required by the city. And of course, he spent money in other ways in upgrading the property that wasn't required by the city.
And but the reporting that you and others have done, Dick Cook, indicates that most of that money went to the security system. Say something about that security system, the access controls. did go some distance to satisfying the police interest. Police often have been called there for fights and claims of drug dealing and so on. Talk about that system and what it did and as an investment in the property.
Well, I'm not sure how much money he spent on the security system, but it had to be considerable. Let's go back to a April 2011 lawsuit that was filed by the city against Superior Creek Lodge. The basis of that suit, David Tulis, was it was a public nuisance. And I have a copy of that lawsuit. I didn't bring it with me to the studio, but it consists of 33 items. The majority of those items deal with keeping track the comings and goings of the residents of Superior Creek Lodge, ID cards, placards that are supposed to be hanging in their windows or of their cars when they come and go, security gates, electronic security gates, access, which restricts access to people coming and going Superior Creek Lodge. Of the 33 items, 32 of them were a requirement for Superior Creek Lodge owner to address. Two items required the city to take action, and those actions consisted of this. The city was required by the judge to install speed humps on North Mac Smith Road. The city was required to equip its emergency vehicles, and I think predominantly the fire engines, with some sort of an electronic device which would allow the gate to open up in the event there's an emergency or a fire there. So of the 33 items, 31 of them were on David Geisen, and 2 of them were on the city. That lawsuit dragged on. It was filed in April of 2011. It wasn't settled until December of 2014. They were operating under this court order. Now, why the lawsuit was not finalized or closed before that time, I have no idea.
Was that under the jurisdiction of city court?
No, it wasn't.
Or was that Chancery?
I think it was a sessions court. Judge Rebecca Stern.
Okay, so that's county sessions court.
Yeah, I believe so.
A corporation court. It's not a court of record.
All I know is that it was Judge Stern presided. But the thing drug on and on, and
what is that? How does my listener hear about this lawsuit and it being ended or settled in some way? Both parties have no further argument to make. They're more or less satisfied with claims and counterclaims, so they withdraw it, or it is pulled back. How are we to take that as far as David Geisen goes? Does that say that or we understand him as being in compliance with the authorities' wishes and satisfying safety interests of his
I think
residents?
Absolutely. I think both of the parties, the city and the owner of Superior Creek Lodge, were satisfied that steps had been taken to make the place more secure. Everybody walked away happy, and that was just at the end of 2014 in December. But of course, that lawsuit was essentially restricting access to people in and out of that place. Now, understand this. I look at police reports on an almost daily basis from the East Ridge Police Department. These are open records that any citizen can go in and access. And unfortunately, I'm the only person that seems to go in there and have an interest. But of these reports, they're daily reports. It's not all inclusive, but it gives you a good picture of what's going on in terms of crime. Consistently, Superior Creek Lodge is the site of crimes of all sorts. There's
such as
domestic assaults. Domestic assault can be
wife beating, kicking the kids.
Sure, yeah. There's a lot of people that live
drunkenness.
800. Yeah, there's drunkenness. There's some drug activity. There's people who steal cars. They find them down there, so on and so forth. I'm going to say conservatively, there's no more than, of the reports that I review, less than one a day. I'm going to say less than 6 or 7 a week. Now you're talking about a population of 800 people down there. That's about 4% of the population of East Ridge. You draw a circle around my house on Marlboro Avenue that includes 800 people, and you're going to find 6 or 7 crimes weekly within that circle. My middle-class neighborhood, I contend, is no different than Superior Creek Lodge. 90% of the folks down there, in my opinion, are law-abiding people. 10% are bad characters, just like any given population.
So you're saying that just because they're concentrated on a couple acres, it looks like somehow that's a den of iniquity. But you're saying if you judge the population, that's an interesting point. It's not really any worse than other parts of East Ridge.
No, not at all. But the perception that has been painted over the years, and Superior Creek Lodge, let's look at it this way. It's an ad hoc housing, public housing for the city of East Ridge. That's essentially how it's perceived. And public housing in our area, in Chattanooga, it's portrayed in a bad light. These people are unfortunate. You know, there's been generations of folks who live there. The unemployment rate is very high. Many of them work dead-end jobs. It's crime-ridden. Superior Creek Lodge is perceived like that by the people of East Ridge. It's the public housing.
And the people of East Ridge have no interest in that. They're rather condemning of it. Dick Cook runs East Ridge News Online, eastridgenewsonline.com, and it's a local-centric news website. Dick is a longtime reporter for many years at the Chattanooga Times-Free Press on the news side and on the sports side, and eastridgenewsonline.com. It covers East Ridge very, very carefully, and all the great and the small, the important and the ludicrous all together on his website. Well, the question that I want to ask my listener wants to ask you, Dick Cook, is this: does not low interest housing, low market housing, does that not serve a real market purpose? People have to live somewhere, and poor people who live on minimum wage, maybe hold 2 or 3 part-time minimum wage jobs and have children and don't have many assets, they, you know, in God's goodness, they have to have a place to live too. And is David Geisen not providing a real public service to have people not on the dole, not under Section 8 housing, have a free market solution to their housing needs? And you might say, well, they have to pay $600 a month to stay there, but there are no contracts. They have all things provided, and there is some security provided for them there among in those devices. Is that not providing a real benefit? And talk a little bit about that. What do you think about that suggestion?
Well, I think Superior Creek Lodge serves a purpose. It's the public housing. Yes, people are going to have to live somewhere. I'm not sure what the average rental price in East Ridge is. I've looked in some of the want ads and stuff, houses for rent, apartments for rent. It's $750, $800 a month. Geisen's place is I think the high end is $220 a month. Look, David Tulis.
Back up.
I'm sorry, $220 a week.
A week, okay.
David Tulis. The idea of Geisen running a business there, I think it's been very profitable. Otherwise, he wouldn't be there running this with all of the constant headaches and supervision and scrutiny by local government since he bought the place or his family bought the place in 2007. I think there's no doubt in my mind that he's making a profit.
He's making a profit enough to sustain the operation and apparently to persist in making repairs. Now, we've had these buildings condemned. We're talking with Dick Cook, eastridgenewsonline.com, an editor and a writer. From your indications, Dick Cook, is he going to try to get through this this very damning, he's been condemned, this very damning situation, which is catastrophic financially. It's catastrophic financially for him because now he has to make major repairs under scrutiny of government. Is he going to go ahead and kind of keep his investment going to have his revenues return, or is this pressure possibly too much for him? What do you think?
Oh, I think he has plans are underway now and could be finalized within the next couple of days, David. He has every intention of rebuilding and making it right and bringing it up to code. He's done it in the past. I believe he's going to do it in the future. I believe this is going to be a very expensive proposition for David Geisen. but I think he has the financial wherewithal to ride this out. He's an astute businessman. He understands that 5 acres of property on adjacent to I-75 is going to be very, very valuable in the coming year.
And as long as he maintains ownership of the land, which is coveted by the city, coveted by developers possibly, he's going to maintain his income stream by providing a low-end service to the low-end housing market. But at some point, someone's going to say, look, we would like to buy these 5 acres from you for $15 million because we have the idea of building a very rich retail development here. This is David Tulis. We're talking with Dick Cook, and we're going to look next at some important questions. There's a provision in state law, 2011 law, which makes land in East Ridge extraordinarily attractive. There's a tax benefit that is now coming into East Ridge in the prospect of new retail development, new tourism development that gives the city 75% of the state's sales tax take. 75%. There's a tremendous motive to unseat David Geisen.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
We cover local economy and the free market here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And our theory is that we should love our neighbor and buy local, favoring the local provider as opposed to the corporate colonial outpost for commerce left and right on all the main thoroughfares. We have hundreds of outlets, and every one of them exports profit. Think for a second, if every business in your town or mine were owned by strangers, owned by people far away, the town could not survive. If you don't have profit in a town, there is no sustainability. Sustainability it comes from profit. So we need more businesses locally owned and operated, and not ones that export the profit. Volkswagen, of course, is a major exporter of profit, but we don't notice that because we have jobs, we have things like that, and tax revenues, and somehow we just forget that the profit has to stay for there to be a real gain and longevity and sustainability. That word does not belong to the environmentalists. It really belongs in the vocabulary of the marketplace. Near is better than far. Small is better than big. Simple than complex. And down where the fleas make their war with their blades is personal is better than corporate. And the footnote number 2, physical is better than abstract. Remember, you can get 2 pizzas for the price of 1 at Raphael's Pizzeria, an Italian restaurant. Buy one and get a second pizza free. And if you are like me, wanting to start a business and wanting to be an entrepreneur with hope for the future, desiring to establish and enhance your estate, well, and you don't have your own idea for business, buy into somebody else's business through the franchise model. Bruce Krebs at Entrepreneur Source, he will fit you in the franchise suitable to your background, your interests, your capital availability, and all in tune with local economy here. Entrepreneur Source is at 875-5621, 875-5621. And remember, if you need cell phone repair or service, go to Cell Surgeon in Northgate. Buy the Chattanooga Pizza, 668-0100, 668-0100. Cell Surgeon, making the guts work in your favor. We're talking with Dick Cook. Dick Cook will be publishing at some point today an essay that I've written that talks about parasitical capitalism, and the parasitical capitalism that I am discerning in East Ridge is that of city government, which seems to covet 5 acres of land that is serving the public in a very important area, and that is low-income short-term housing. And the property in question is Superior Creek Lodge. Superior Creek Lodge, owned $3 million investment, owned by the Geisen family. David Geisen is the man here living in north of Atlanta, owns this property and is serving the low-end market. In other words, poor people. They have bad grammar, drive old cars, wear wife-beater T-shirts on the balcony, and sometimes maybe slap their kids around. And these are somewhat rough people, maybe not the best educated, but often very hardworking, very well-intentioned. Some of them are vastly overweight, don't have any sense of style, but nonetheless, they are human beings made in God's image. And the question is, cannot they have their place? Cannot they have their place? Dick Cook, we're going to ask you about the ouster, and that is to say the eviction process that occurred September 9 and 10 in East Ridge, your town. You cover East Ridge on eastridgenewsonline.com. That's eastridgenewsonline.com. And Dick has been very gracious to publish a piece today from me, your editor. I write at Nooganomics.com. Dick, what happened on the moment of the crisis, in which we've been calling a humanitarian catastrophe in the Chattanooga area? What happened?
Well, I got a heads up that the city was going to move at about 5:30 on this eviction. So naturally, I went down to the property and waited. Nothing really happened until about 7:20 that night, and authorities came in. The fire marshal came in his truck. City manager. There was a phalanx of police vehicles. There was an ambulance. They came in. Code enforcement workers trudged inside with yellow notes, yellow post signs that were saying, this is condemned, and here's the reason why: life safety issues. There was very little hue and cry from inside of the gates, from inside of the fence. People were milling around. I think they had a darn good idea that that their time there was going to be limited. Word on the street, you know how that is, David Tulis. It was surprisingly orderly. I hate to say this, but I anticipated some violence. There was no violence. By this time, David Geisen was on the property. He was inside of the administration building. People were lining up and around the building in an orderly way. Room numbers were being called out, and presumably the people who were living in those rooms would go inside the administration building, and David Geisen would write them a refund check for the rent that they paid. Names were being called out. If not a room number, it was a name. Mr. Smith, Jim Smith, get up here. It was fine. It was surprising, but I think it's a testament to the character of the people who live there. Yes, they're poor people. They're unfortunate. But I think by and large, they're law-abiding. I think 90% of the folks there are just trying to make their way in the world. Work their job, their 2 jobs, work their shift, get their kids to school, come home to whatever home might be. It was an orderly evacuation of, at that time, half of the people. Unfortunately, there was a thunderstorm brewing during that time, and people were having to, leave in the rain. There were some people who came to collect them in cars and trucks. They had some trailers. They were trying to get their worldly belongings and get out and comply with what the city was asking them to do. I was shocked. David Tulis, I was shocked.
You were shocked because of the pacific, calm nature of these people who were being evicted without what I want to say without due process. That's something that I've been harping on here on our station. My listeners are very concerned about due process. Was anybody told, hey, you can ask a judge about this? Was a judge's order involved? Talk a little bit about that and how this was really a kind of emergency executive action from top down without judicial oversight.
One of the first questions I asked Mike Williams, who is our fire chief and the acting city manager, and let me preface this, Mike Williams is a friend of mine. I respect the man. It was very difficult for him to do, and I could tell that. I don't think he was blowing smoke. First question I asked, Mike, don't you need a court order to do this? Response, no. This is being done under life safety issues by order of the Chief Building Codes Officer, Code Enforcement. The idea I was told, this man's name, by the way, is Brad Hayen. He's new to the job. He's been there for 3 or 4 months. He's really made an impact. What I was told was the building was in such deplorable shape, according to the Chief Codes Inspector, that it could literally fall down without a load on it. Primarily, the issue was the exterior walkways on the 2nd and 3rd floor. They were crumbling. There was ultimately, we found out that the substructure, the supporting beams, are made out of wood, and then there's concrete poured on top of that. Over the years, that the structure, the beams have deteriorated. They've rotted. So we've got a load on these exterior walkways, and I saw them. They're slumping. They're a little wavy. It looks a little iffy, but the authorities were convinced that they had to get everybody out of those two buildings on September 9 because the building could collapse. And I think they were acting in pretty good faith. That was on September 9th.
So what I saw. Back up just a second, Dick Cook. We're talking with Dick Cook from East Ridge News Online. What's the difference? Why is good faith important? Because good faith is the opposite of bad faith. What's the difference? And you're saying you saw in Mike Williams's demeanor and in his purpose, you saw good faith. Talk about that. The difference between those two things and why that's important.
I think there are some people in the city who may believe that the city of East Ridge is trying to get their hands on the property at Superior Creek Lodge, that there might be some sort of a conspiracy by unknown folks to use the city as an arm to kick them out, make it impossible for Geisen to run his business, and then for the city or others to take over that. I think Mike Williams and his staff and the city staff were acting in good faith. I don't think that there was any sort of pressure put on them by external folks. Remember this, David Tulis. The initial complaint a couple days before September 9th was a resident called the city and said that there was a pest infestation in their room. And authorities responded, code enforcement authorities responded, went into the room. They did not find...
Would that be as in termites?
Possibly. I think roaches, rats, pests, okay. Fleas, bed bugs, whatever. They went in there and checked it out. Turned out to be untrue. As the inspector was leaving, he noticed there was some support issues outside there on that exterior walkway. He noticed that one of the columns was coming undone from the floor, and it was sagging. There was a gap. At that point, he was bound, I imagine, by his own conscience to take a look at it. And what he discovered was that there were some serious structural problems in their eyes. That's what I'm talking about in good faith. I think they were acting in good faith. I think they were acting in the public's interest, trying to safeguard people's well-being. Now, with that said, I'm not sure that they acted responsibly by insisting that these people leave these two buildings immediately. I think there's a track record that Geisen cooperates with the city. I think perhaps, and I'm a Monday morning quarterback here, it's easy to do. I think perhaps they could have said, look, Mr. Geisen, you've got a serious problem here. Let's get these 150 folks who live in this one building out of here tonight. Let's get them out of here tonight. And let's take a look at the structure. Let's repair that. They can come back in, a week or two. There would be no migration. There would be no refugee problem that we experienced on September 9th and September 10th.
So due process rights could have been at least somewhat preserved, Dick Cook, if Geisen had been brought in to say and had been told, look, we see these problems, we think it's grievous, we would like you to take an emergency step, rather than the city by executive power and police power to oust these people themselves. Are you suggesting that? Would that have maybe satisfied the due process questions that I've been raising?
Well, perhaps. I just think it was a radical move that the consequences of which I'm not sure that the city gave much thought to what was going to happen when you move 400 people one night and 400 people the next night. They didn't have any place to go. What I'm puzzled with is why, if in the past Geisen did cooperate with the city officials, like the city officials said that he cooperated. They would go down and point out some deficiencies. David would address it. The lawsuit that lingered for 3.5 years, David took care of all of that too. I mean, the man cooperated with city officials. So they had this reaction. Their actions were we got to shut these two buildings down and get these people out of here for their own safety. You know, I just don't seem to understand that.
Well, there's a saying, Dick Cook, that necessity is always the tyrant's plea. The tyrant, the despot, the man who wants to act unilaterally, often outside of law, often in the interest of himself or his party, he says here is a necessity. It's so urgent that we do not have to worry about the niceties of law, property rights, or constitutional rights. And that's the question I've been raising. It seems to me that the haste is uncalled for, that the owner of the land, David Geisen, and the buildings was not given due process rights, and the city overrode him. In other words, pretended he wasn't there as the owner, who is he is the executive, you might say the executive of that company, of that entity. No, we override him out of necessity, and we are at the helm, and we now direct all these somewhat impoverished and poor people onto the street 2 days in a row. For 2 days, and in the end, 4 buildings are vacated of their people who have domicile there. They're not just renters; they have domiciles and residency. They've met residency requirements, many of them, by intending to stay there. So they have domiciles, residencies, and in effect castles. They are in their own castles, and now they're not just searched without a warrant. I would say it's even worse. They are told, "Get out." The policeman banging on the door, the woman opening the door, the husband's not home yet maybe, and he says, "You've got to get out, we're ordering you out." That seems to me a breach greater than a violation of the Fourth Amendment, which is the requirement for searches only with warrants or probable cause.
I think you're overstating what happened there. The cops didn't come and bang on the door. I think the people knew exactly what was going on. As I said, the word on the street was we were being kicked out. Yeah, it's kind of heavy-handed. There's no question. I think it was heavy-handed myself. But again, let's think about who these people are. They're essentially powerless. You got no money, you got no juice. Who are you going to complain to? Where are you going to go? Or what are you going to do? File a lawsuit against the city?
No one's filed any lawsuits.
You know, what are we going to do? How do you fight City Hall? Yeah, it was, they were treated harshly. You know, it was a dark day in the city's history. I think the city will bounce back from this. Hopefully, if it works out like it's planned to work out, the city has called attention to a problem in structures where poor people stay. The man who was their landlord, who should have kept the place up, and I don't think he knew of the real serious problems. I think if he knew about them, he would have fixed them. I think he's going to fix them. I think he's going to address this. He's going to improve the property, the places where these people stay, David. Okay?
This is David Tulis. We've got a caller. We're talking with Dick Cook. Caller, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
The arrogance of government is beyond belief. It's like the federal government's not bad enough. But these little tyrants in these little towns using the power of the state, you know, to me, it kind of amounts to treason. Yeah, come on. Let me ask you this. Are the city governments going to close down their projects? I've been out there. I viewed that so-called tenement last week. It wasn't in bad shape. These are little tyrants. I want to know what's going on behind the scenes. Who's getting paid off? Where the money's flowing? What they want to put there? These little tiny bureaucrats need to be put in their place. They're a bunch of punks, and they use government, and they throw the weight of government around to bully business people. You know what they need? A spanking, not court. You know, when a zoning officer comes in your building, they should be grabbed by the back of their head, pants pulled down, and spanked.
Now, hold on. We're a pro-government station, and we will not have any callers condemn or inveigh in that way against government. We are very much pro-government. So, Dick Cook, you're pro-government too, and in fact, all of our listeners are. We're for government in the sense that self-government is the primary and principal form of government, which we all would like every man to adhere to. And then, of course, we want government constrained by law, limited by the Constitution. The caller, though, Dick Cook you're the chief editor and writer of EastridgeNewsOnline.com. The question he's bringing up is, let's bring it up now, the Border Region Retail Tourism Redevelopment District Act. That is such a mouthful that my listener is almost dozed off by the last couple of words, but just perk up here again. It's called the Border Region Retail Tourism Development District Act. How that it passed in 2011 and East Ridge in 2012 in midsummer in June created a development district in terms of this act. How it seems to be a separate story, but they're coming together. And Dick Cook, talk about this, what the purpose of this act is, and how the development district that's going on around Superior Creek Lodge somehow might touch with the eviction of these people and the effort to condemnation of 4 large buildings.
Well, that's a mouthful of an act. We refer to it as the Border Region Act. It's pretty simple. It's in theory, the Border Region Act would allow the city to recoup 75% of the state sales taxes that would normally be going to the state from retail sales. The city would conceivably, they would do some infrastructure improvements, invest $1 million, and they would turn that into the state. They would be reimbursed 75% of the cost for that particular project. It's being billed as a renaissance for the city. Potentially, it is a renaissance for the city. Lots of interest has been generated, and new development is taking off. We got a new Walmart neighborhood grocery market there. Bass Pro Shops has broken ground. Some developers have started with a big old honking project called Jordan Crossing, which could potentially generate $1.5 million in new sales taxes next year, which is about half or similar to what we're collecting in sales taxes last year. So it's a big deal. Now, David Geison's property is right across Interstate 75 from Jordan Crossing. It is prime real estate for potential development. Listener, you draw your own conclusion. Mr. Geison has been in litigation with the city for about half the time he's been in business. I don't know if the city's trying to get its hands on it. I don't think they are. I think maybe some other people might be. Don't know.
It's important to point out that Superior Creek Lodge may collect some kind of hotel tax, but it does not generate sales tax, right?
That's correct. There's a hotel motel tax, and I'm not sure all the intricacies of that. I think that tax may be avoided by extended stay motels, David Tulis. There may be an exemption there. So it is not a cash cow for the city at all.
And it has the problem of being a place of low repute. And you have a survey, Dick Cook, on EastRidgeNewsOnline.com, which says it's 10-1 in favor of the city's actions. People are generally favoring Mr. Williams's executive action to condemn these buildings and remove these sort of unsightly Americans from that domain. 800. Real quick, Dick Cook, the initial reports in the Chattanooga Times-Free Press based on Salvation Army figures was 1,500 people. How is that? I've been reporting your figure, which is 800 people evicted. Is that where we need to stand on the numbers of human beings involved?
I think so. The 1,500 number is inflated. The only thing I can think of is that other homeless people or unfortunate people who may have been in the area glommed on to the whole idea of getting help from social services.
Okay.
And they represented themselves as being residents of Superior Creek Lodge. But I know for a fact there's 260 odd units there. And the owner told me at one point in happier times that 800 people live in that place.
So we have 800 people out. And so Dick Cook, your report, I wanted to ask you about your website. How, you are a former newspaper editor and reporter and sports writer. How is it that you're making a living? How are you getting on as a publisher? You have advertisers on your website that's really very good.
Well, I've started this a couple years ago. I actually inherited it from a woman named Karen House who started the thing. She moved away. I picked up the mantle. East Ridge needs, the citizens of East Ridge need to be informed about what's going on in their community. Mainstream media neglects them. I'm there as a public service.
And you've lived there your whole life.
I have lived there my whole life. And I love the place. I'm not going to go anywhere. We've got problems. I think there are better days ahead of East Ridge. Before the caller called, I think David Geison has plans to repair his business and get it back up and running.
Well, we're all for the marketplace. We're all for the free market and men and women prospering by serving others, whether they be rich or poor. Dick Cook, thanks for joining my listener and me here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
My pleasure, David.
Dick Cook is the chief writer, editor at EastridgeNewsOnline.com, part of the budding movement of local journalism, independent journalism, apart from establishment capital interests such as TV stations and the Chattanooga Times-Free Press. Real coverage of East Ridge by Dick Cook. He's there all the time. He lives there, knows everybody there. So that's where you get your local news from, a local source who has a civic obligation, a civic duty. And my name is David Tulis. Thanks for giving us a couple of minutes of your time.
After this mild start, expect more dry and warm weather for your Wednesday. First day of fall, but highs in many areas could be near 85 tonight. Lows into the lower 60s. Partly cloudy, continued warm Thursday, near 84 with more clouds and a few showers possible on Friday. Tired of the pressures and hassles of car shopping? Come see why more people are making the short drive to Jackson Chevrolet Buick GMC in Lafayette or online at jacksongm.com. That's Jackson Chevy Buick GMC in Lafayette. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hey, all you gun enthusiasts! Carter Shooting Supply has just bought a crazy load of guns and is having a crazy huge sale event. Going on now, a huge inventory of Smith & Wesson, Glock, Ruger, and Taurus all on sale. Taurus guns have a mail-in rebate for $25 to $50. All long guns and all ammo on sale too, just in time for hunting season. Come in and take advantage of this crazy huge sale event. Going on now at Carter Shooting Supply, or shop from home by going to cartershootingsupply.com. Highway 58, Harrison. Check our prices before you buy.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
We do the best quality work. We have the best customer service, the most competitive prices around.
Cell Surgeon, a painless operation to fix your sick device.
Well, if you have a cheap charger or something that's not really designed for your phone, it can mess with your battery. It can actually fry your phone. So you need to make sure you have a quality product that's going to be designed for your phone.
Cell Surgeon, your smartphone doctor is in the house at the Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
If you charge it in the morning and, by noon, it's at, 50% under normal use. That means your battery's pretty much dead. And once you've reached that point, it starts to deteriorate.